Well, the U.S. is set to provide air cover along with ground assistance to a Syrian militia group which has launched a major assault on Raqqa. Our crew filmed this footage as American soldiers on the outskirts of the city help retake it from the Islamic State. RT's Ilya Petrenko has more.
The battle for Raqqa has begun. America's jets are helping from the skies, and it looks soldiers on the ground.
I'm from America, and I'm standing here south of Ain Issa. Today's the first day of the Raqqa operation. Yeah, it is important that the YPG takes Raqqa, or at least that Daesh is kicked out of Raqqa.
Washington appears to be going further than just their declared mission, to train, advise, and equip its allies. These include Kurdish and Syrian Arab rebel militias. Damascus obviously never invited the Americans to start war operations in the country. So what's known as Operation Anger on the Euphrates, the U.S.-backed push to throw ISIL out of Raqqa, gets going, days before America votes. But wait, wasn't the U.S. administration going to take credit for the liberation of Mosul across the border in Iraq? That mission kicked off 3 weeks before the Clinton-Trump showdown. There was no lack in optimism.
ISIS is really about to receive a body blow.
The long-awaited assault,
a much-awaited battle to recapture Mosul, has started.
But things didn't go as smoothly as expected.
We are really concerned about the extremely big humanitarian catastrophe that is going to happen.
We escaped from Mosul with the help of a smuggler. We have 8 children with us. We're suffering from the cold, from hunger, from thirst, everything. My child is sick. We wanted to get treatment for him, but we couldn't. He's 1.5 and can't walk.
What's concerning is people who are caught in the crossfire. Those innocent people of Mosul are the ones who require dire humanitarian assistance.
I've been walking for 14 days. Where is the help we need? I can't walk any further.
And from bad to worse.
The warplanes in Mosul are targeting Islamic State jihadists who use civilians and their homes as shields.
Who is to blame? What have we done to deserve this?
The owner of this house was Amir Mohammed Yusuf, my brother. He and his entire family was killed. There were 8 of them, including his pregnant wife and their 2 children.
Innocent people paid with their lives.
The United States and the Obama administration in particular, and the Secretary of Defense Ash Carter, were trying to do was to launch the operation at this moment in Mosul, in the second largest city in Iraq, really for not only military purposes, but for the purpose of political impact right on the eve of the U.S. election, to show that President Obama was succeeding in his mission that he proclaimed to the American people to degrade and defeat ISIS.
I'll tell you something, what the Pentagon is doing, it's deploying U.S. soldiers on foreign land, and they are being protected as and seen as enemy forces on the ground. What's happening is they send what they call in the media as consultants, but it cannot be a consultant. If you are a military man, you cannot go and consult. You have to train, you have to teach, and you have to be at the front line. They are there to fight.
So if these guys in military fatigues speaking American English really turn out not to be advisors but soldiers, will Washington ever come clean? Ilya Petrenko, RT.
The U.S.-backed SDF, or Syrian Democratic Forces, a mishmash of Kurdish and Arab armed groups, says their campaign in Raqqa has begun. Dubbed Operation Euphrates Rage, the SDF announced its campaign to liberate Raqqa with coordinating airstrikes from the United States. This comes more than 6 months following President Obama's announcement that Washington would deploy about 250 more personnel to Syria, in addition to some 50 Special Forces personnel already there. Joining me now to discuss, former Pentagon official Michael Maloof. Mike, good of you to be here with us. Defense Secretary Ash Carter said that the Raqqa operations would overlap with Mosul. No confirmation yet out of the Pentagon just yet that SOF is officially on the ground, but video, as we just saw, would say that they are there. First, are American Special Forces on the ground in Raqqa? And if they are, is this a violation of Syrian sovereignty, as the Syrian foreign minister has said?
They are on the ground. They are assisting the Kurds in that operation, and the Pentagon has been very active in providing them. Is it a violation? Yes, because on two counts. Number one, the government of Syria never invited them in, even though the Syrian government invited the Russians in. Secondly, there's no UN mandate of any kind to allow it. Thirdly, the U.S. Congress has never approved that incursion, nor has it ever approved the United States to fight ISIS. And under the War Powers Act, it's well overdue. So, yeah, it's a real problem, and that's why the United States is relying upon the Kurds as well as this Arab force, which is many of whose units conflict with one another. They're always fighting with one another.
It's this mishmash of this newly formed SDF, as they're calling it. It's a mixed bag. Some are Kurds, some are local Arabs.
That's correct.
And there are people saying that the local Arabs in northern Syria are concerned about the Kurdish influence within the SDF. And that is exacerbated, of course, by the Turks saying the same exact thing. What do you think will come of the Kurds in this SDF group?
Well, there's supposed to be some kind of an arrangement because of the Turkish concerns about Kurds being involved, in which the Arab contingent will go in and take the lead, and the Kurds will back them up. But the Kurds don't necessarily want Raqqa because it's going to be because of the Sunni influence and because of the hostility that exists. I think they'll go to a certain point. They're assisting on the ground, but it is a real problem if the Kurds do continue moving through. And for now, Washington and Ankara, Turkey, have an agreement to hold back the Kurds, or to not have the Turks come in and raise all kinds of hate and discontent about it.
Kind of shake up this newly formed group.
Right.
Well, Brett McGurk, President Obama's counter-ISIS envoy, says, as you have just said, that the local Arabs will be the vanguard of the SDF. But the Kurds are actually the bulk, the backbone of this group. There are more of them. How's that going to work?
Well, it's going to be touch and go, and that's why this is so dicey. And you also got to look at why this is happening now. Why are we going after Raqqa at the same time we're doing Mosul, even though the Pentagon says we have the means to deal with it? It's a race, really, between the United States and Russia to gain access to Raqqa, to secure it, so that ultimately the forces under so-called U.S. control will take over Raqqa and keep out the Syrian government. And ultimately, the United States policy, once again, is to take down the Syrian government, ultimately. But they want their Sunnis as opposed to other type of Sunnis like ISIS. And if ISIS goes, Al-Qaeda could easily fill that void. That's a problem, and no one's talking about that.
Vacuum after vacuum.
Vacuum after vacuum.
It took the SDF more than 2 months to recapture the town of Manbij. It's much smaller than Raqqa. Raqqa has almost 250,000 people in it, and an estimated 5,000 ISIS fighters are embedded into the local community. How costly of a battle will this be for Raqqa?
It's going to be extraordinary because not only because of the potential for civilian casualties there, but the question is where are they going to go? Number one. Number two, you have the leadership of ISIS perhaps back in Raqqa now after having fled Mosul. So it's going to be extremely well protected. It's going to be extremely costly, and with that overlay of political bickering between the United States and Turkey on the one hand, the United States and the Syrian government and Russia, it's going to complicate this politically as well as militarily on the field, and that's going to probably be reflected on the battlefield as well.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, huh?
There you go.
There you go. All right, we'll have you back here to talk about it again real soon. Thank you so much for your expertise. Former Pentagon official Michael Maloof.